Okay, I can feel live right now. Wonderful. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third edition of Ramola Reports. I'm very happy to be here once again with Frederic Laroche, who helped pad out part one and part two of Ramola Reports with his extraordinary story of both his current situation in Grenoble, France, where he is being detained on wrongful grounds, and part two of his story, which really went back in time and talked quite a bit about his early experiences of experiencing military intelligence stalking, surveillance, harassment, and ultimately discovering that he was the subject of neuroexperimentation at his workplace at Hewlett-Packard. So where we left part two the last time was where Frederic had just returned to France after a visit to Turkey and learned that this stalking and surveillance was actually following him across borders, and where he actually had a conversation with a very close family member, a half-brother, who suggested to him that perhaps what he needed to do was leave France and go find a place where he could lose himself in a crowd of maybe 1 billion people, and a place like that would be India. So we left it just there, and today what we are going to do is talk with him about his trip to India, his travels in India, and what his experiences there in India were like in terms of this entire landscape of EMF and neurosurveillance and targeting. So welcome, Frederic. Good morning.
Hello.
Would you like to, once again, just as we did the last two episodes, would you like to take that witness affirmation thing again so that you can state to the world that you are indeed presenting the truth as you experienced it?
Yes, sure.
Wonderful. Go right ahead. Yeah.
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Frederic. So if you wanted to just jump in right here and start with the story of how you set off to India, which places in India you visited, and then kind of take us down in a kind of a slower breakdown in terms of what you experienced as well. That would be great.
Yeah. So after the first 5 years of my starting of being harassed and stalked and tortured in France and in Turkey, then finally I decided to go to India. It was in October 2002. And the first thing when I reached here, it's impressive how the heat of the place. It's very hot in Mumbai, and also the brightness of the sun. It's a different brightness at this in this country than from in France. And then I see the Indian people, and I listen to their Indian accent when they talk to me, and there is the very huge queue for immigration checking, so it's many hours waiting in the airport.
Okay.
So finally, I have stayed in Mumbai maybe 1 week or 2 weeks in Mumbai, and after that I will tell you maybe just in a few seconds where I have been in India. So after Mumbai, I have been to Pune, and after Pune, I think it was Lonavla. It's a small village where there is a yoga school, and something interesting happened in Pune and in Lonavla also. And then I have been to Goa. And I have been a long time there, and I made a very good friend here, but some problems occurred also here. Then I have been to Hampi, just a short, maybe 1 or 2 days, and then I think I was wanting to go to Pondicherry, but it was too long, so I have stopped in the middle in Bangalore. And then something also happened here, and also something tragic here. And then I went to New Delhi, and from New Delhi to Kashmir in Srinagar. And maybe after that, I think I have seen also Agra and Jaipur, Raipur, and I think I have also been to Kathmandu and Colombo in Sri Lanka. So let's start with every places. And so the first one was Mumbai. Mm-hmm. So I was in a hotel, and I was visiting the main places in Mumbai, like the museum for Gandhi, and there is also an aquarium and the island with the elephant, I think. So I have seen many places like that. It was nice. I was thinking maybe my decision was good. Maybe I am very far from France and very far from Europe, and no Frenchmen can be here, neither their allies. And
So initially, when you landed in Mumbai, you basically did not feel that you were being stalked or surveyed when you first landed. You felt more comfortable initially.
yeah, there was still a very curious event when I started to leave from France, and then I arrived in Switzerland because it was a connecting flight.
Mm-hmm.
And in Switzerland, I was making the queue to take the plane. Maybe I think I was going to Turkey again to connect with another flight, because I did not take a direct flight. I wanted to have multiple flights because I was expecting that the people following me could be in the plane, and I didn't want to have a long duration of flight. So I have split the journey. And then in Switzerland, I was making the queue with the regular queue to take the plane, and everybody got inside the plane. And then suddenly there were some officers coming to the queue, and they were taking me, and they were asking me to go to another plane. So I don't know the reason, but I went to another plane. And this plane was very strange because before arriving, I felt the pain again was happening to me. And I felt very destabilized, and the pain was very strong when we have landed. And at this moment, I understood that I have failed my plan to avoid being attacked in the plane. And the people who were in the plane attacking me, they were happy to see that I was failing that. And then everybody from the plane got up and they applauded. It was unbelievable. I have never seen that in a plane, that everybody has applauded when we have landed and when I was completely crushed by the pain. So I was thinking to myself, this plane is maybe not a regular plane, and all these people inside, they are not regular tourists, and they are all the members of the group of persons who harassed me. And when they have succeeded in making me have the most terrible pain possible in a plane, they were happy maybe enough to applaud. So it was the first time I saw people applauding at the landing of a plane, and for
Can I
me it
just
was
ask
not.
you, was this from Zurich to Mumbai? Was that the plane then?
No, I think it was from Zurich to Turkey, because I have stopped in Turkey in between. Yeah.
So
And then
I'm just very curious about what exactly might have happened. So you were actually taken out of the queue to your normal plane, and then you were kind of shunted off to a different flight. Is that right?
yeah.
Were you the only one? Were there other people who were shunted off to this flight?
No. I was the last one in the queue, and I don't think I was misplaced. I don't think I was taking the wrong queue, and they have just taken me from the regular plane for another plane, and this plane was a fake one or
And you
something.
feel that the plane was rigged in some way, that there were people on that plane either carrying weapons or in some way directing energy at you. Do you have any
Yeah,
awareness of how that happened? Do you feel it was, because I have traveled a great deal on planes, and I too
yeah.
have experienced EMF assaults on planes. And I
Mm.
kind of have gotten an idea of how exactly they accomplish it. But I'm trying to find out how you experienced it. Were they carrying weapons in the plane, or were they hitting you with directed energy from above, which would suggest a satellite beam?
No, I think because after that, when I came back from India, I have gone back to India several times, and it was the same scenario, but I was taking a direct flight. But there is two flights. One is a short flight, and one is a long flight. So in the long flight, it's full of tourists everywhere, full of Indian people, full of tourists. So they cannot manage the situation in the long flight. So nothing happens there. But in the short flight from Lyon to London, or from Lyon to Zurich, for example, it's 1 hour and a half. Then in the short flight, they are attacking me. And I think I know how they are doing. They are using a suitcase, and they are placing the suitcase in the luggage draw above my head. I think it's as simple as
Okay.
that.
I see. So, and that has some kind of microwave emitter or something like that in
Yeah,
it.
and they have a battery, and the battery maybe is 2 hours long, and this is enough
I
for a short flight.
I see. Okay, that's great. I just wanted to find out the methodology that you felt because you're so good at sleuthing out and finding out what exactly is going on. So, and your theories are important as well. So, okay,
Yeah.
so you found you were really being hit in that plane, which is very unfortunate, and then you landed in Istanbul, and then go ahead, pick up the story from wherever you feel it's important.
Yes, finally I reached in Mumbai, and I do the visiting of everything. And then I see that some people seem to be following me, but they are Indian, so maybe I am mistaken. So I decided to run, to walk a little faster, and I see them, they are accelerating. So I said to myself, maybe there are some people connected to the people I knew from France, and maybe they are here for me. So I should run away from them to escape, and maybe it's my last chance to get rid of them. So I was running very, very fast, and I was crossing the street in Mumbai by running, and I was following the tramway or the metro. I was trying to follow the path to remember approximately where was my hotel, and I was running maybe for half an hour like that, and the people, maybe one man was running behind me also. And sometimes I was climbing the stair to join a station of the metro, and then I was going down by the stair, and I was crossing again through the streets, and I was doing that maybe 2 or 3 times. And the guy behind, he was also going up and down, going up and down. And finally, I arrived in a station. It was not very far from my hotel, but I was very tired and I was breathless. So I decided to stop. And the guy arrived, and he was also breathless, and he was maybe a little tired also. And there was an old man, and this old man seemed to be homeless or something, but he seemed to be knowing this guy. And this guy, I think he was from the police or something. And the old man was maybe an informant, and maybe he was knowing this guy, because he came to him and he said, hey buddy, what happened to you? And the guy said, I was running after a big fish.
You heard him say this. Was this in English?
Yeah, it was in English. It was in English.
That's amazing. And this was all
So
on just a walk that you took from the hotel, and you started to notice that you were being followed. And that's how it
yeah,
all started.
so I decided to go back to the hotel with the metro. And from there, I was thinking, what is going to happen next? So I decided to not wait. And maybe I stayed there maybe one night. And then the next day, I saw on the newspapers that was inside the room that there is a city where the people from Mumbai, sometimes they go there to enjoy a little countryside, and the city is Pune. So I decided to take the train, and I went to Pune. And I saw the place, and it was not very entertaining for me. It was a disappointment. I was not very happy of this choice. So I was thinking maybe I should not stay in Pune. I should find a beautiful landscape a little farther. So I took a rickshaw, and I gave him a lot of money, and I told him, can you drive me for 1 hour and get lost somewhere in the south of Pune? I want to be in the middle of a forest or something with a beautiful landscape. He said, okay, I can drive you. And finally, he dropped me in a place where I could see some signboard, and there was a kind of temple in the middle of a forest somewhere. So I got down there, and there were some little stalls where you could have some tea or street food or this kind of
Mhm.
things. And effectively, by following a little path, it was possible to go inside the forest.
Mhm.
And the forest was very beautiful. It was a man-made forest, and I think it was the monks of the temple who have made the forest. And I have seen the temple. It was a beautiful place, but not possible to stay and sleep in the temple. So I decided to go behind the forest and to place my tent there, because I was having my tent and my sleeping bag and everything. And I have slept there maybe one night. And in the next day, I decide to visit a little. And I see that opposite of this forest, there is another forest. And there is a church. And it's a Christian church, apparently. And I see there is a priest. And I talk to the priest, and I tell him, where do you think I could have a place of stay, a nice place where I could have a room and etc. And he said, well, not here, but my advice is that you go back to Pune, and you can go to a Christian ashram in Pune. I will give you the name and the address. So he told me the details. And I decided to not go immediately. So I have stayed in my tent, I think, one day more, and it's only the next day that I took another rickshaw, and I went back to Pune, and I found the ashram. And it was very interesting because the ashram was empty. And I was asking to a coolie who was passing there, I was asking him, where is everybody? And he told me, well, the director has gone yesterday. He's no more here, and he will not come back before a few weeks. And I think nobody is there, maybe except 3 or 4 persons. So I told him, is it possible that I stay here and I can pay for the night and the food? Say, well, maybe we can arrange something. I will ask. And he went to ask some person. And finally, I could have a room. And I have stayed there for one night. And the next day, I saw that the ashram was effectively empty. There was nobody here except 4 ladies. And these ladies were all foreigners. And they were English speaking, but each one, because I have stayed there a few weeks or maybe a few days, let's say. And we were having the lunch together and the food at night also. And sometimes we were washing our clothes in the bathroom. So we were sharing a few times together, and we were having some little talks. So I could see that they were having different English accents, and I could see that one was a British one was maybe an American one was maybe a Canadian one, and one was maybe an Australian one. I was not very sure, but and one lady, she was having some kind of design on her hand. It was black color, like a tattoo. And I think it was a kind of Jewish design. So I was thinking maybe this lady, she's speaking English, but maybe she's from Israel or something. I didn't pay attention to the accent first, but then it happened something very curious. I was going outside to check for a cyber coffee because I wanted to read my mails, and I saw 2 of the ladies. They were standing just next to the coffee shop. So I was thinking, oh, they want maybe to check their mails also, or maybe they were knowing that I am going there, or I was not very sure. Mm-hmm. Then I go inside the coffee, and I check my mails, and then I think to myself, I should also search for useful information, because if I want to stay in India, I should know where is the best place to stay and where I could find a job to do a job in India. So I was starting to search for jobs in India, and I have read many propositions for jobs, etc. And I was very busy reading that. And in the coffee, there were maybe 10 young people. And at one moment, the girl behind me, she was telling to her neighbor, oh, it's very nice that he's looking for jobs in India. So I was thinking to myself, oh, these people are talking about me. So in my mind, I was thinking, if they are in the coffee, if they are here for me, then I think I am going to kill them. And I became, my face became red of anger. I was very much filled with anger, and I wanted really to hit them. And at that moment, they were telling to himself, oh, that's not the good moment. We have to go away from here. Is going mad or something. And they went away from the cyber coffee, except maybe 3% they were still here. So
did you hear them say he's getting mad or he's getting angry?
yeah, maybe not exactly these words, but they were reacting about something that was happening inside my mind. And
Right.
I could see that they were guessing what is happening in my mind, and then they were deciding that it's not the good time to stay near this guy because maybe it's going to explode, and maybe this is something they are expecting from me, that I am going to break to lose the control of myself
Mm-hmm.
and to start breaking the chair and the table and then behaving mad, and then the police
Mm-hmm.
could catch me or anything. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
what they were
Which would
expecting.
Right, which would make sense if they were indeed stalking you and if they were indeed trying to mimic you and replay what you were doing it verbally, which is kind of what it sounds like,
Yeah,
and then actually seeing that they had succeeded in harassing and provoking you, just deciding to run because they didn't feel that they could handle the heat, right?
yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
So all these kind of things I already knew from France because it has happened a lot of time for me in France
Hmm.
when I was going to the restaurant, for example. The two table next of mine were already filled with this person, and they were talking about me. So I was having the habit of that, and
So, in other words, you have
so
experienced many times the
yeah,
scenario of being in a public place, being stalked,
yeah,
being surveilled, and being intimately listened to and intimately watched, and then actions and words that you have actually said being replayed to you. So, you've had this experience before. And so, it's a
yes.
kind of a formula that these stalkers have been using around you, as around many, many others, of course, worldwide. At this point, we know exactly what the protocol is, what these formulae are. So it's very interesting that you found yourself now in a little cafe in Pune experiencing precisely the same kind.
Yeah. So I went out, and the two ladies were also here, and then they were going inside a tea stall to have a cup of tea. So I decided to go there, and I was sitting next to their table, and I could listen to their conversation, and they were talking about me. So I was thinking, okay, so the ladies from the ashram are also part of that. So I came back to the ashram, and I could understand the next few days that indeed they were talking about me when I was near to them, or after the lunch. I could see that they were having conversation about me. And then I remember one night an Indian man was arriving at the ashram, and he was there for 1 or 2 nights. And he was having his room just next to mine and next to the library. So I was not very sure what kind of person is that, because there were 4 foreign ladies and the director was not here. And so apparently the ashram was already set before I came. When the priest told me to go there, it was already a setup. So I understood that later, actually. So already the ashram has been cleared from everyone, and it was only booked for the person handling my case inside the ashram. And someone arrives. He's an Indian, but I don't trust him. So I go to the library, and I try to pass a lot of time in the library, not being in my bedroom. I didn't want to go sleep. And I started to read some books about Buddhism. And it's my first time in India. I was reading books about philosophy and religion, and there were very many books were here. And I was reading the noble truths of Buddha, and what the Buddha taught to the civilization, what he has brought to the civilization. And I was thinking to myself, but what he's telling, it's it's speaking to me. I can feel related to what is telling. I feel that all my life I was searching for an answer for my problems in my life, and it's written there in this book, in this ashram. And I was feeling in in harmony with myself. I was feeling in peace with myself.
Mhm.
And at that moment, I felt the pain again, and it was coming from the bedroom just next to the library. It was the man. He was coming there to torture me in the ashram. And I decided to use the book I was reading to change my mind and to keep clear in my head. And I, I was able, by using the words and using the inspiration from my readings, I was able to counter attack him, and I was able to not feel the pain anymore. And I heard him becoming angry and banging to the table, and he was telling to himself with a loud voice. I could hear him tell it that. He was saying, "Oh shit, he's his own psychiatrist. He knows how to cure himself."
Wow, that's pretty amazing. You
Yeah,
know, you had experienced exactly the same kind of thing in France, right? And your parents
yeah,
have, when that woman above was, you think, hitting you with directed energy weapons, and every time you shielded in some way, she banged on the table in precisely the same kind of fashion and
yeah,
sounded frustrated, and you could hear her through the window. And the same kind of situation is now being replayed
yeah.
in an Indian ashram library.
So
And
nothing is new except the place.
exactly. And you actually heard this guy saying that. And the fact that he could say that you have, in a sense, become your own psychiatrist and resisted those attacks suggests that there is some mentation involved here. That, in other words, what you are doing mentally is actually having an effect physically
Yeah.
that helps you to resist these directed energy attacks.
Yes, and I know that some victim they say that reading the Bible is helping them, and me, it's reading the thought of the Buddha who has helped me. So from this time, I have kept a book about Buddha always with me, and it's inspiring me to relieve me when I feel under the pain. I just try to be as simple as Buddha was, and this
Mm,
is the most easier way to get rid of the attack. It's using your own mind, your own brain
mhm,
to make the peace inside you and to make the calmness, and
mhm,
then actually the pain can reach you, but it will not stay in you. It will go out. So this
mhm.
is the way, the better way to deal with the situation.
That's wonderful because, this really talks about the whole mind body continuum. And so it suggests that even if you were being hit directly, physically, with direct frequencies, with directed energy, microwaves, or, working at a certain frequency and an assault in your body, it's the experience of that pain mentally that you were able to control. So that's one possibility. And the other possibility is if indeed you've been hit neurally with frequencies, because part of what these weapons are doing, they are neuro weapons. They attack the human nervous system and they attack the brain. So if they are frequencies being sent to the brain and that are designed to induce whatever feelings, whether of pain or depression or resignation or apathy, all of which is now being documented worldwide, um, then it also suggests that what the human being can do willfully and deliberately, as in your case, reading the words from a religious text and gaining solace from it, can actually counteract, resist, and stop that assault from the outside, stop the effect of that neurological assault from the outside. That's absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant.
Actually, what I have learned through the years is how to recognize my internal stabilized state, my own state of mind. So when you feel the influence of something external, you can recognize this is not yours. And all you have to do is to focus on yours and to forget about the external influence. And it's helping a lot when you are experienced with your own body and your mind for many years. Actually, when a victim is a young victim, it's difficult for the victim counter-attack. But when a victim is an old human person, because I have been a victim after my 30s, so I was knowing myself very well. I was knowing who I was, how I feel, how I think. And when you have this external influence, at the beginning, you are completely overflowed. It's too much to bear. But after a few years, you can stabilize with yourself. You can recognize the external pattern that is not yours, and you can concentrate and focus on yours only. And then the external pattern can vanish like a noise.
That's wonderful. So basically, what you are really pointing to is both the reality of these remote behavior modification neurotechnologies that are being used both in experimentation operations and actual operations worldwide, and the fact that these attempts to influence the brain, to change the human brain, and to move a human past free will and autonomy into accepting the external influence can be counteracted simply with the power and strength of the self and the sense of self and sense of free will that one has acquired over time. And you make a very good point about being assaulted younger and older, which really suggests that our children, our young people, our adolescents, we are the most vulnerable to this kind of insidious, externally applied, remotely applied behavior modification technology, which is nothing but the assault on the human brain and the human system, the nervous system. So thanks so much
Yeah,
for that. That's really part of the power of what your experiences, bring out for everybody. So, so,
yeah.
so, so great, so wonderful. So let's go back at that point in time to that library. What happens next?
Yeah, I think it was all. And I went to my bedroom, and I think they have tried also to attack me during the nights. Um, so I think the next day there was a group of young people, and they were Christian band, music band. So they were making some music, and they were making some exercise with the instruments, and I was listening to them. And I was thinking they were genuine a genuine group of Christian coming here to for a festival or something. So I was enjoying listening to their exercise. They were just trying to make the instruments working, and then they have started to play music. It was very nice. And I was looking at them, and they were looking at me, and I was starting to think, oh, maybe is it like the Indian guy yesterday? Maybe this group is not a genuine group. Maybe they are part of the interaction that has been set up for me. And at this moment, I started to distrust this group. And in my mind, I was starting to become scared that maybe I have to deal with one more situation, one more group of person who are here to trap me. And I don't know how they did that, but they were reacting to my thinking. They were knowing that in my mind, I was changing my mood, and I was not happy anymore. I was scared, totally scared. And at that moment, they have started to not play properly their music. They have started to make false notes. And the false notes were, it was symmetrical to my behavior, to the status of my mind. So I was becoming destabilized in my mind, and they were destabilizing their music, and it was matching, and this was amplifying my fear. And the more they were playing wrong notes, the more I was having fear. So at one moment I decided, okay, let's stop it. I go away from here. And then later there is one boy of among them. He came to see me, and he said, tomorrow we are going to Lonavla, and I am going to Lonavla tomorrow, and I'm going to yoga school, and I want to learn to do yoga. Why don't you join me there? And I said, no, I don't think I am going to join you there. But I was not knowing what to do. So the next day they have left, and I decided to go to Lonavla, because it was just the last idea that someone has put me in my mind. So I didn't know what to do. I went there. So it's a small village, and there is a yoga school. And I have stayed there maybe 2 weeks. And there was a guide, spiritual guide. He was an old man with a white beard and white hair. And every night he was having a talk with the people sitting here. And I think it was not the first night, but maybe after 2-3 nights, he was talking sometime to someone. He was addressing his speech about someone in particular. And this time he was talking to the profilers. That's what he said. He was talking about you should not be the kind of person with a superior behaving. You should be modest. You should be humble. And he was talking to the profilers. That's the word he have used. And
he used that
yeah,
word.
yes. And there were in the middle of the crowd. There were some Indians, and I was a foreigner. And in the front, because I was sitting in the back, in the front there were maybe three or four foreigners also here. And he was addressing his speech to the profilers, and they were laughing. They were the only one to laugh. So they were the profilers.
You
So
mean the
I think,
three? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to follow this narrative.
yes,
Are you saying those three other foreign people were the profilers?
yes, I think they have presented themselves to the spiritual guide as profilers, and they were here for me. And he has explained, they have explained him something like that. And after that, he made a comment about someone, and this someone should not be angry after his father, and he should forgive to his father, and he should be happy to have had such a father who has passed away recently. And I was thinking, oh, this is a message for me. He's talking about me and my father. So obviously, this guy, he was knowing about the profilers, and he was knowing about me. And these profilers, they have presented to him like police officer, like they were doing a kind of operation inside the yoga school, and he has accepted their presence, even though he was making a comment about them, that they should not be upon everyone, they should be humble, etc., etc. So he was trying to give them a lesson, but he was giving a message also for me. And after that, I had the pains again in the yoga school.
So I just
So
wanted to make one comment. You know, what your experience here of being in this group of people and being spoken to by this guru or rishi or whoever was conducting that evening's activities, um, it sort of rings true to what many other targets of extrajudicial surveillance are reporting worldwide. Basically, that they are in the middle of communities where people around them, the communities, are being told erroneously and falsely that they are the targets of investigation. And in your particular case, it sounds like they've actually used the word profile. So that this person is being profiled or watched or surveyed or investigated. And therefore, that is the meaning and the reason for the interrelationship, the interaction, and the watching and the surveillance that they are conducting on you. So, you know, to varying degrees, I think communities are beginning to be either aware that this is going on and that this is false, or they're simply falling in and participating. And it sounds like in this particular case, this particular guy, the guru, did not really fall for the story.
yeah, so the pain were coming back during the nights,
That's
and
unfortunate.
then I decided to not stay more, and I left. And then I took the train and I went to Goa. And in Goa, I have visited all the beach from the south to the north, and I decided to stay in the place where it's called Vagator, and there was having a Tibetan cafe. So it was a nice place. It was open on the open sky, and there was a very nice electronic music, and also a very nice pizza to eat. So for me, it was the perfect place, and I decided to stay there. And I have rented a private bedroom of someone in Chapora. So it was in the middle of the jungle, and I was thinking to myself, this is good. I am in the middle of the jungle in a private home. There is no other home around. It's not a building. It's only a flat house. So I think I will be safe here. So I have stayed there maybe for 2 months. I have stayed there, and it was almost perfect. But the problem is that I became sick, and I was thinking that maybe I should use the same medicine I was using in France. So I have taken the risperidone I was having in France. I have taken it again, and it has made me the side effects that I had before. So I was getting paralyzed, etc. So I was showing to my friend, because I was not able to speak. I was showing to my friend, I need an injection. I need an injection. And they say, what kind of injection? I was not able to explain that.
Can I just
But
pause right there? When you say that you wanted to take the medication that you had taken in France, were you saying this is the medication? I just want to, revive this story for anybody who hasn't watched the other two videos. Basically, this was medication that you had gotten from a doctor, just to help you, in a sense, block the pain, the physical pains that you were feeling from the directed
yeah,
energy attacks. Right? And that's why you took the
yes, yes,
risperidone? That's why you were prescribed the risperidone and you were taking it, right? Yeah. Okay.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
I was having my pills from the start when I left France.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the problem is that my friend was afraid that I was a junkie, that I wanted to inject
Oh boy.
a
Okay.
drug. So he told me, I don't want you to stay anymore here, because my mother will not accept if it is the case. It's
Mm-hmm.
not possible. Now my mother is convinced that you are a junkie, so you cannot stay there. So I have found another place to stay, and it was a house for rent. But the problem is that it was just near the German bakery. It was near Anjuna. So it was just near the German bakery, and the German bakery is it's like a coffee. So it's so always open, and there is always many people here and tourists. And around the house there were a few houses also here. So at that moment I was only staying there, and the pain came back, and I was thinking maybe it's coming from the people in the German bakery, or maybe from the house just next to me. So I was thinking, I cannot stay there. I have to leave again. And so I decided to ask a friend to drive me, and he drove me to Hampi. And it was very sad, because it was the same friend who was renting me the house before, and we have become very close to each other. And he was crying. He was telling me, "Oh, you are leaving me now. I was thinking that you were like my best friend, and you are leaving me now. I'm very, very sad." And I said, "Yeah, I know, but I cannot do differently. I have I cannot stay very long in the same place. I have to move all the time." So he was very sad, and then he left back to Goa, and I was left in Hampi. And in Hampi, I have just stayed one day to visit the place. I have slept one night, and in the next day, I took the bus. I wanted to go to Pondicherry, but it was too far, so I have stopped in the middle in Bangalore. And in Bangalore, I was thinking, this is the place for the computer person, the software engineer. So I was thinking, and if I stay in Bangalore and work as a software technician or something, and maybe not, maybe I don't know what I will do. So I have rented a room in a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and it was too much expensive. So I decided to find a cheaper place, and it was near Chickpet Circle. So I don't remember the place exactly. So it was a place a little dirty, with poor poor people everywhere. And but the place seemed to me adequate, because it was full of people, and I was thinking, maybe the guys who are following me, they will not dare to come in the middle of this. So I was renting a place here, and I failed because the pain came to me back, but this time it was not connected to an apartment next to me, because when I was taking an auto, I was going somewhere else, the pain was continuously I was having the pain. So it was night, day, morning, evening, all the time, 24 hours 7. And it was like that maybe for 1 month. 1 month I have stayed with the pain continuously, and it's only sometimes I was having a day off. Sometimes Saturday or Sunday it was happening nothing, and sometimes also during the day it was stopping a little. So I was having brief stops, but otherwise it was almost 1 month 24/7. So for me it was too much. It was too much. I was thinking to myself, if they are able to make that 24/7, wherever I stay, wherever I move, I think I have to kill myself again. So I decided to go to another hotel, and I decided to cut my vein again in the bathroom. And this time it failed. It failed without nobody to intervene. Nobody came in the bedroom. It just failed. And I was staying in my bed for a few days. I could not move because I was very weak, because I have lose a lot of blood. So at this moment, a very bad idea came to my mind. I was thinking, okay, if it is not the good method, I am using the wrong method. I have to use another method. And I was thinking, let's use a real poison, a product that I can buy in a chemistry shop or whatever. I can find some poison, and then it will work instantaneously, and I will not fail. So I was going to the chemist shop. Where can I find the poison? And I was thinking to take some arsenic, or I don't remember. I was looking for something very very strong to stop my heart. And everywhere I was going, I was the only foreigner coming to this kind of place, and they were not trusting me. And I was asking for this chemical, and they told me, "Sir, it's not allowed to sell this kind of chemical, or only if you have a certain kind of license." So I was telling him, "What kind of license do you need?" "Yes, for example, if you have a jewelry shop, and if you want to work with gold and you want to melt the gold with a chemical, then you will show your license that you are a regular shop dealing with jewels in gold. Then we can give you the product." So I was thinking to myself, okay, so this is the last part of my plan. I need this license. And at this moment, I got lost in my mind, because I was searching for some help with Indian people to open a jewelry with the money that I had left from the inheritance of my father after he died in 2000. So I was having some money in my bank account, and I was thinking maybe I can open a shop like a jewelry with an Indian partner. So we have made a deal with someone, and I have put a lot of money in that to open the shop, and we were registered, and I was about to have the license. I was about to have what I wanted, to kill myself properly. But I was completely lost in my mind. I was completely lost. And I think at that moment, my visa was coming to an end. And my Indian partner, he told me, you should go to Sri Lanka and you will apply for a business visa, as a jewelry shop in Bangalore, and we will give you all the documents so you can have a longer visa and you can stay there. So I have been to Sri Lanka, I have been to Colombo, and there I have been attacked again in the hotel. So I decided to write a long letter, and I have sent a letter to my sister and to my half brother, and I explained them my situation here, and I was telling them to arrange in France my stuff that I had left in an emergency, because I have left France in an emergency, and my car was parked in the garage. My house was still having the electricity on. Everything was switched on in my house, and my house was still on the rent. And I was still paying the rent for nothing. I was not living there. So I have sent the keys of my house to my sister and my half brother, and I told them, please take my stuff back from the house and tell the landlord lady from the little house in the mountains that the rent is over and the contract is finished. And I was thinking, I have to do that because maybe after a few days I will be dead. Then I came back to Bangalore, and I did not get the visa because in the Indian embassy, they told me, well, sir, now we know that you want to do business, and the paper you are giving us don't have the signature of your partner. And effectively, I was in a hurry, so I went to Sri Lanka with the papers, but it was missing the signature of my partner. So it was not valid. And the guy was telling me, you are making business visa and you don't have the good documents, so I will forbid you to come back to India. And I said, no, because I have my stuff in India. I have to pick up my stuff. And he said, okay, I will give you 2 months visa. You go back to India, and then you go home, sir, please. So I went back to Bangalore, and I was still having a visa problem. So my mind was totally changed. I was thinking, okay, now I have screwed up all what I wanted to have. I don't have the visa. I don't have the license. I cannot kill myself. So I was thinking, okay, let's change the strategy. Let's live. I want to live, and I don't want to die because this is not working. This is too much a hustle to die. This is better to live, and I want to fight the people against me, and it's better to stay alive for that.
I'm so glad that you came to that understanding, because all of this has been extremely troubling to hear, that you had actually been making elaborate plans to try to take
Yeah.
yourself out of reality and utterly. And it also sort of sounds like a whole bunch of circumstances kind of came together to prevent you from taking your own life, right?
Yeah, maybe someone was watching on me, and it finally made change my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, I decided to go to New Delhi, and in New Delhi, I found a travel agent, and I told him I want to go to Nepal to extend my visa with the Indian embassy. And he told me, oh, I don't know if it's something easy, that maybe it will be a little difficult, but I can help you if you want. I can come with you. I can help you to make the visa. And then after that, my father is having some houseboat in the Kashmir, so maybe you could go there for 1 month or 2 months, and you could rest, because I can see that you are a little in the difficulties, and you are tired and you're not feeling well. So why don't you go to the Kashmir and have some trekkings, and you enjoy on the lake, etc. I say, well, okay. So he have sold me a package, and in the package it was going to Kathmandu, have the visa, then go to Kashmir and stay for 1 or 2 months in a houseboat in the Kashmir. So that's what I did, and I got 6 months more for my visa, and I have stayed maybe 1 or 2 months in Kashmir, and it was nice. And I have met good friends in the Kashmir Valley, but also in the small village in the mountains. So we call the people living here, we call them the gypsy guy, or they are speaking another language, the Gujari people. So they are the poor people. They are living in the altitude in the mountains, and I was meeting there these people when I was going for trekking in the mountains, and I was finding there the people who can survive to the winter, because there is a lot of snow here during the winter, and they can survive this. So I was thinking to myself, they are the true human beings I was looking for. They are the true one. They know how to survive. So they are simple in their mind, in their ways of behaving, and in their talks, and they are very simple and humble. And I was thinking to myself, they are the real human beings I have never found anywhere. So it was in 2003, and it was my first encounter with the real simple Indian that live in the small village, and my heart was very excited to meet such a person. And they became my friends, and I have visited them many times during 2003, and even later I was moving again in India, but I was managing to every year, because I have stayed 4 years in India. So every year I was taking 1 month to visit my friends in Kashmir. And in Kashmir, I have changed my place of stay different times. And at one point of time, I was in a house with a nice lady, and she was a very strong believer. And then she received 3 or 4 young Christian people, and she told me they are going to stay there for 1 night, because they were blocked at the airport, and they could not take their flight, and I didn't want to let this poor young student, this group of Christian young person, I didn't want to let them lost. So I invited them to stay in my home. So Frederic, they will share in the first floor. You will have your room, and the next room will be busy, because they will use them. I said yes, okay, no problem. But during the night, I was having a very severe attack, and I could not sleep. And I was listening to the voice of the Christian young person in the room next to mine, and the light was not switched off. The light was still on, and they were talking and talking, and I could hear what they were talking. They were talking about some description of my mind. They were talking about my ability to speak well in French and English and Spanish, and they were talking about my difficulties regarding the pain I was having in this very night. So I was remembering almost everything they were saying during the night. And then in the morning, I did not sleep almost. In the morning, we woke up, everyone, and then it was the time to have the breakfast. And my friend, the lady, and she was a believer, so she was wanting to make a prayer before having the breakfast. And I decided to make the prayer. And I made a very special prayer, because in the prayer, I was giving the form of a prayer, but I was using specific words. And the words I was using were the words I had listened from the group of Christian people in the room next to me. And I was repeating their very own words that I have heard them saying about me. And I saw in their faces, it was changing, and they were very scared. And when I finished the prayer, I said, Amen. And then everyone said, Amen. But the four young people, they stood up. They stood up, and then they went in the corner of the room, and they were chatting to each other. And one of them came to me, and he gave me a little piece of paper, and he wrote me his mobile number, and he told me, sir, we are very sorry what we did to you yesterday night, but we were told to do that. I'm very sorry. I'm giving you my personal number, sir. If you feel you need any help, please, sir, you will call me. I will try to help you the best I can. And then they told to my friend, we cannot stay there. We have to go very quickly, and they have gone.
This is
So actually,
absolutely amazing. Go ahead. I do want to talk about this a little bit further, though. Go ahead.
it was not accidental when my friend met this group. It was not accidental. It was arranged, but she was not part of the trap. She
Mhm,
has got trapped, her and me too, and the
mhm,
purpose was to be in the same home as me, to torture me, but I have undercovered them. So
mhm,
when I made the fake prayer, my friend did not understand the prayer. She was really thinking it's a prayer. It's in his own words. So she was letting me speak, but it was coded. And
mhm.
in the code I was using, they could understand it was talking about them. So they were very scared. Oh, he could understand everything. So we cannot stay there. We don't know what is going to happen.
Mhm. So I really want to underline the fact that basically what you uncovered here is a group of young people who had actually been pulled into this organized network of informants who are being fed stories about you, the target in this particular case, and who had actually been persuaded to carry weapons with them and to bring those weapons to take up residence in your very close vicinity and to assault you with those weapons through the night. So, and you actually uncovered it and they actually confessed it
Yeah. And
after
they were
your
for
long
they were
period of confrontation with the prayer.
yeah.
Very,
And they
very.
were they were foreigners. They were also foreigners. So and they were Christian, or actually that's what they pretended. But I think that Christian person are the person who can be easily engaged in such process against victims. So
Why do you
maybe
say
they
that?
were. Yeah, because in the ashram already, it was a Christian ashram, and the priest before the ashram, he was a Christian priest. So, and the band who was doing the music, it was a Christian band, and they were coming here for a festival, for a Christian festival. And again, here in Kashmir, this group of foreigners, they were Christian. So I think. Amongst the person who are involved in acting against me, oftenly it was a group of Christian.
I see. So
And
your experience that far has suggested to you that the Christians that you were encountering were in particular suspect. But also, we should also consider the possibility that these Christians were also really not really Christians, right? They were maybe
maybe,
fake Christians. Who knows? But
yeah,
very interesting that you were consistently faced with groups of Christians who were assaulting you in this fashion. Covertly.
yeah. And then later I came back to the houseboat, and I remember of an incident. Um, one morning, uh, I was not able to realize that I was waking up, but something in my mind was telling me, be careful, Frederic. I think you are waking up very early. And effectively, it was maybe 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was waking up from the boat, and the boat was on the lake near the land. And I was dressing up because I was having my pyjama. So I was dressing up, placing my shoes, etc. And in my mind, I was not sure if I was dreaming or not. I was not, it was not very clear in my mind. And I was opening the door and getting out of the boat. And then I was walking on the bridge. And then my memory collapsed. And then I opened my eyes and I was on the bridge again. And I was full of water. And my good friend, he was a coolie. He was an Indian person. He was keeping the housekeeper of the boat. He was standing upon me, and he was telling me, Frederic, can you listen to me? Can you listen to me? And I say, yes. What happened? And he told me, Frederic, you don't remember? You woke up very early, and I saw you going out of the boat, and then you were walking along the bridge, and suddenly you made a misplaced your feet, and then you fall down in the water of the lake, and you were drawing. down. And then I have jumped in the water and I have saved you from the water. Don't you remember that? I said, no, I don't have any memory of that. What is this? So it was my first case where some programming during the night of my mind has made me waking up without me to notice it. I was like if I was under hypnosis. So
Mm-hmm.
I have done something without me to know that I was doing something, and then I felt in the water by accident, and then someone saved me, and that at that moment only I really woke up. I really woke up after that, and I could not remember what I did. He only told me what I did. So it was my first experience of something that I was not doing by my own will. It was something else that has been placed in my mind and that has been programmed in advance, and I was doing it without me to be able to know it and to see it and to control it.
Mm-hmm. This is absolutely extraordinary and really so extraordinarily unsettling because this pretty much sounds very much like the CIA's radio hypnosis, intracerebral electronic dissolution of memory, whereby, this goes back to the MK Ultra experiments in the 70s, which were all hushed up. They weren't shut down, they just went underground. And what we are seeing today in all of these neuroexperimentation cases are possibly the re-emergence of those precise experiments. But it's so disturbing to encounter such a situation where you, a real life human being, has been assaulted in your sleep, programmed in your sleep, so that you feel that you're, in a sense, being radio hypnotized, moved into a state of hypnosis where your free will is completely suppressed. And then you actually do not have any memory of what transpires during that state of hypnosis and free will suppression. And this is sort of the situation that we see being played out, for instance, in cases like Rohini Besesa in Canada and various other people. In fact, it's questionable whether all of the active shootings that we hear about, I know a lot of those are false flags set up, crisis actors, but a large part of them, some of them have actually talked about hearing voices, experiencing synthetic telepathy, and experiencing this whole scenario of not remembering what transpired and feeling as if something else has taken over their bodies. So these things are not urban fantasies, they're not conspiracies. They can be traced scientifically back to CIA experimentation. And so this is doubly concerning and unsettling that you experienced this. Now, you say actually that this is the first time you experienced it. Have there been other times since that moment?
Yeah, it has happened a second time. I was in Delhi in the house of a friend, and I woke up. It's the same thing. I woke up maybe at 5 in the morning, and I went downstairs, and I have switched on his computer, and I was starting to work with the computer. And then my friend, he woke up also, and he was seeing me in front of the computer. So he came to me and he was asking me, Frederic, it's very early. What are you doing with the computer? And I was talking to him, but I was talking in French language, and he was not able to understand me. So he was telling me, please shut down the computer. I don't know what you are talking. You are talking in French. Can you listen to me? Can you listen to me? And then I left the computer. I went back to the room upstairs, and I finished to sleep. And then in the morning, everybody wakes up, but my friend comes to me and he say, Frederic, do you remember what you did in the middle of the night, in the early morning? I said, no. Well, I will tell you. You have woken up, you have gone down, and you have used the computer, and you were talking to me in French. And then I say, oh, in my dreams, I remember I was talking in French to someone, but I didn't know it was for real. So it was just a brief action, but it was the second time I was acting under some kind of hypnosis, and I don't know how they can do that, and maybe because it's many years have passed, and they were passing all this time. They were passing to induce me something in my mind, and this was starting to give a kind of action, the result. Maybe they wanted this kind of result to come out after this many years passed to target me. But
When,
it has never.
where did this latter incident occur?
Yeah, I think it was in 2004 or something.
And where
And
was it?
it was in New Delhi. Yeah,
In Delhi. It was still in India, I see.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So
And
that's very,
it was the last time.
it was the last time. Okay. So this whole scenario, by the way, of radio hypnosis is vastly interesting. And I think the ways in which the human brain, the free will is being overridden, I think there are several technologies in use actually from what I read. And certainly this is something to revisit. So at this point in time, since we are merely kind of documenting the incidents that you have experienced, let's go back to that moment on the Kashmir houseboat. So you've been revived, and it was a most dramatic moment because you literally were near drowning, and your friend saved you. So what
Yeah.
happened next?
Yeah, I think I have shifted to another house in Kashmir, and it was difficult to avoid the pains from there, and it was surrounded of many houses, and sometimes even when I was going to the mountains, I was having the pains also. So I was starting to think now they are able to target me with many different ways, many different weapons, so they can have me with something nearby, and they can have me with something in the high altitude. So I decided to leave from Kashmir and to go back to Bangalore. So I have stayed there in Bangalore maybe in 2005 and 2006. So it was the last years of my stay in India. And in Bangalore, I was in the private apartment of a friend, and I was working for him. I was doing little jobs, and he was offering me free accommodation and food. And I was also targeted in Bangalore, but it was difficult for me to know where from it was coming, because there were other flats, and there were other buildings, and there were the main road, and so it was difficult for me to understand where it was coming from. So I have stayed 2 years there, and I have tried to manage the best that I can, and I was keeping my life busy with something to do during the day, the job I was doing. So after that, during the night, I was trying to sleep the best that I could, and I was using still the medicine I was using in France. I was still using them to help me to sleep. So I think in 2006 I have met a few persons who were very important for me, because when I went back to France, I decided to go every year in India for 1 month to visit them, because they have become my best friends. And some of them were from Bangalore, and some of them were in Bangalore for a short period of time, but they were belonging to Kashmir, and I already knew Kashmir. So for me, this little group of person I met in 2006, they became my close friends, and my only close friends, because when I came back to France, I had lost all the contacts I was having with my previous friends and even my family, and I was not trusting anyone anymore in France. I did not want to go back with my previous friends. So my only friends were my last friends from India.
Wonderful. Glad that you made great friends and that you've actually found time to go back and visit them and so forth. So it sounds like, when did you actually make the plan to leave India and go back to France and settle on France?
Yeah, it's in 2006. My visa was about to finish again, so it's always the problem of the visa. So I went to see a software company, and I told them, "Do you need a software engineer?" And they say, "No, but we need someone who speak in French language because we want to do some business over the phone with Canadians and in Quebec, and they are speaking French language there. So maybe we are interested to hire you, but your visa is not valid for getting an employment with us. So you have to go back to France, and we will give you a contract. We will sign the contract, and then you will apply for a regular employee visa, and you will come back and join us in the company in Bangalore, and you will work for us for a minimum of 1 year." And I said, yes, that's the good plan. And I decided to leave India in November 2006 with the plan in my mind to get the new visa and to go back to India, because I was not trusting France anymore, even though in India it was also some difficult times. But I was not knowing where to pass the rest of my life. I was thinking maybe in India I can manage because it's the life is cheaper, and it's a very big country. I can move in many different places, and I have good friends. So I was thinking maybe I can be more lucky in India than in France. That was my thinking. So I went to the Indian embassy in Paris, and there was a very huge queue because I stayed there 2 days. The first day I went to get the application form, and there was maybe 1 hour queue. It was very fast. Nobody was here. And the next day I was coming with all the papers, etc., to apply for the visa. And I came maybe three hours before the opening in the morning, and already there was a very huge queue, and the queue was maybe 6 hours waiting for me to get inside, because for every person it was taking a long time, very long time. And when the queue was also going in outside in the roads, and when I was inside, I saw a lady, blonde hair, and this lady, I was knowing her. She was a French lady I have met in the shop for the man I was working for in Bangalore. She was there. She was in the shop where I was working in Bangalore. And we have talked maybe 5 minutes because she was French. And then she was there in the Indian embassy, maybe half a year later. She was there, and she was in the same day that I was applying for the visa. She was there. So I was asking her, but what are you doing here? And she said, well, like you, I am applying for another visa because I'm going back to India. Me too. But for me, this was having no sense at all. And during all the time I was doing the queue, I was having a lot of pain in my head. And I was thinking, even I have to leave the queue and not apply for the visa because the pain was so huge. And actually, when I was inside, I could see the person in front of the desk of the counter. They were talking, and I think that all the queue was filled of fake person. And even this French lady, it was not an accident. She was here because there was an entrapment also at the embassy, and the purpose was to make me fail to have the visa. But I did not fail. I had my visa. It was done.
That's brilliant.
But the problem was, when I came back to my place of living with my mother, I was staying with my mother, then I was severely attacked. And it was so painful that I had to call the emergency, and I went to the hospital, and I have stayed maybe 1 day in the hospital. And I was feeling so much weak and so much pain everywhere, that finally I called the company in Bangalore, and I told them, I'm sorry, but I am too much weak and I have too much pain. I cannot come in the proper date that you were expecting me to come, because maybe I am going to stay in the hospital. I am very sick. So finally, I didn't use this visa. It is still on my passport, but it has never been used because I could not go back to India, and I stayed in France with my mother, and then many other things have happened later.
I see. Okay. That is such an incredible story. So you actually succeeded in getting the visa despite being assaulted in the line and despite being swarmed by, it appears, networks of people who were put there to stall the entire process. But then immediately afterward, you got very sick and you actually couldn't go. Um, so, so in a sense, you stayed in France not by intention, but somewhat accidentally, because you had intended to go back to India.
Yes.
And this was in 2006, right? Or early 2007, perhaps? Or was it still
It's in 2007. Yeah.
It was 2007. Okay. So perhaps at this point, Frederic, what we can do is close down this session because we've been going on now for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And in the next session, part 4, we will pick up your story with your stay in France, and bring it up, perhaps bring it up to the present date, because during this time period, it sounds like between 2007 and 2017, you became very active as an activist, and you began to research and understand this phenomenon, and you began to do a lot of work to try to alert people to what is going on in France and elsewhere, really, um, about the organized stalking and about the neuro experimentation with neurotechnology that's going on, and the use of directed energy weapons or microwave weapons on people in a covert fashion. So this has been a really extraordinary conversation. Did you want to add anything further about your whole experience in India before we close this one down?
Yeah. I think India, it was something good. My only mistake maybe is that I didn't throw my credit card, and I didn't throw even my French SIM card, and I didn't throw my passport and my papers. And maybe I could have a chance if right away, when arriving in Mumbai, I should have been to a temple and become a monk and live as a monk there, by throwing all my stuff and not using them anymore. And maybe I could have really been lost there, but it
So,
was not the case.
but well, you're kind of saying now, sort of in hindsight, that perhaps if you had done that, if you had sort of stripped yourself of your existent papers, announcing and pronouncing your current identity or your persona as a person, um, then you might have experienced life differently. But it appears that part of what's going on here with people following targets from state to state and country to country across borders has to do with something that goes beyond credit cards.
Yeah.
It has to do with brain frequencies, right? With the
Yes. Yes.
unique brain print that each of us has, our
Yes.
brain resonance frequencies, our bioresonance frequencies. I understand there are specific frequencies for every single one of our organs.
Mm.
And it has to do with the tapping into and the recording of these frequencies by these incredibly amoral and unethical neuro experimenters and totalitarians, really, who are imposing these forms of control on human beings in this fashion by taking these brain prints.
Mm.
So our brain prints we carry with us,
Mm.
we emit them despite ourselves continuously. And quite apart from the issue of brain frequencies, there's also the issue of covert implantation. Most targets report being covertly implanted. In other words, there are RFID chips in their bodies, possibly in their brains, that are giving off specific frequencies that can be received and can be recorded. And people are being tracked in this fashion, and that brings up this whole issue of electronic slavery, bioslavery, etc. That I've been following in my articles, and that you as well, are very aware of. So obviously, it's for these reasons that we are doing these interviews and that we are talking about these subjects, because we want to disseminate to the world that these are not stories, that these are actualities that are currently transpiring. So I really thank you for coming forward and talking at length about your experiences, because through the course of your experiences, You have made extraordinary discoveries, attesting to the reality of these stalking and assault scenarios. So I really thank you, Frederic. And at this point, if we're okay with closing the session down, let's do so. And we'll plan to convene again very soon to pick up part 4 with your experience in France.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye, and see you soon.